Now, let us understand the types of inflation. The types by rate are creeping inflation, walking or trotting inflation, running or galloping inflation, and hyperinflation. The terms refer to the speed of the horse, especially trotting and galloping we are referring. Trotting means walking and galloping means running. Creeping inflation is 3% a year or less than that. In case of walking or trotting inflation, it is between 3 to 10% a year, and running and galloping inflation is 10% or higher. But in case of hyperinflation, price rise every moment and there is no limit to the height to which the prices might rise. For example, it can even be more than 50% a month. In case of economy, in creeping inflation, it is generally considered as beneficial to the economic growth. But walking and trotting inflation is considered a little harmful to the economy, whereas in galloping or running inflation, the economy becomes unstable, whereas hyperinflation scenarios are very rare. In case of demand, creeping inflation creates demand, and in case of walking or trotting inflation, it drives demand even further. In case of supply, in creeping inflation, the supply is stable, whereas in walking or trotting inflation, even the supply is pushed up further. But in running and galloping inflation, supply can't keep up with the demand. Whereas in case of hyperinflation, it only occurs when government printed money recklessly to pay for war. Running or galloping inflation examples can be seen in Russia in 1980s post USSR disintegration, whereas in case of hyperinflation, it would be Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, and during the American Civil War. Now we'll be talking about the different types of inflation on basis of the characteristics. We'll be talking about deflation, stagflation, reflation, and skewflation. And we will be looking at the scenarios which exist, results of such type of inflation, some extra comments on it, and causes behind it. First, we'll look at deflation. It is opposite to inflation, and prices witness a downturn or fall, causes a long-term drop in demand, and may even lead to recession. If in recession, may even further lead to depression. It is not considered beneficial to even consumers, as fall in prices plus assets is witnessed across the economy. It is difficult to control and may lead to depression. Occurs on burst of a bubble in an asset class. Bubble is a scenario where an asset class like house, its prices keep on increasing, and when suddenly market crashes, there is a sudden fall in housing prices. In case of stagflation, when economic growth is stagnant, that is not growing, plus there is high inflation and high unemployment, that is when stagflation exists. Can lead to hyperinflation and caused when policies create money supply in the market, but bottlenecks prevent this supply and there is presence of high unemployment. This is a very unusual situation. Occurs on demand creation but prevention of supply. For example, embargo. Embargo means an international action to stop something or someone. Let us look at reflation. Government uses fiscal or monetary stimulus to expand a country's output, like quantitative easing methods, to revive, especially in case of recession. It is an intentional inflationary practice to bring prices up and is opposite to deflation. It is an intentional activity to drive up the economy for its benefits, to reduce unemployment and increase demand. Government causes it by increasing supply of money or reduction in taxes. Let's look at the skewflation. It is seen when there is a sustained price rise in one or small group of commodities over a period of time. But it causes panic plus price rise in corresponding items sometimes. But the economy itself is not under inflation. A small skewflation is generally considered beneficial for the economy, that is up to around 2%, and is also natural for a rapidly growing economy, for example like India. It is very sector specific and occurs when price rise is skewed in favor of any particular sector or group within a sector. Now if you say, I still don't understand the types of inflation. Imagine you're crossing a mountain called Mount Economy. Now, if you continuously climb, then this climb or rise is called inflation. If you climb down and climb up again, then this fall and then rise is called reflation. Stagnation and inflation refers to stagflation. Similarly, again a fall and then a rise would refer to reflation, and continuous fall refers to as deflation. This is how a graph would look like, and economists understand what type of inflation economy is going through with the help of this graph. Now you might wonder, I did not explain skewflation. So now it's time for skewflation. Skewflation is pulling off graph line in one particular direction, either on the outside or inside. This is what skewflation is.